Welcome to the developer's commentary for Underminer. On week 1, I went through concept testing for the idea. For the original idea, it was going to be an underground game with a series of panels on all sides, essentially a bunch of bricks of dirt from a top-down perspective and you being able to build buildings, hire minions, and dig your way through the dirt. However, as my generation tests showed, when I generated the world beyond a certain number of bricks, about 15,000 or so, the time it took per every 2,000 or so bricks beyond that point just got progressively larger and larger. So I couldn't do the dirt blocks technique in a way that wouldn't jerk or slow down the gameplay. And figuring out a way to make it faster would take a little while, so I switched to my current technique, which is the player movement of this little helicopter with a drill attached, which will then take out dirt blocks and allow you to gather different minerals. Current working prototype, as of 1 week in, has a whole heck of a lot of draw calls, but it doesn't really slow down that much. Notice it's giving me about 70, 80 frames per second, even with the recording going. The recording slows things down quite a bit. The helicopter works just fine, tilts in the direction of movement. Can be moved up and down. When the drill is announced, you can land by going slow enough for the landing gear to come out, at which point the blade slows down. You hit the button for activating the drill, your maximum speed goes down, the drill comes out, and then you can start tearing pieces into the local wildlife. You can do this to creatures in the game as well, however I'm planning to put in quite a few that are ranged, so it's more useful to use the cannons that you'll also get later. Right now, the only part that's working perfectly is the digging with associated particle effects and moving the helicopter itself. Notice the particle effect when the drill enters is being centralized right where the drill's tip is, well, where the drill is intersecting the brick, and shooting particles up at the drill back. This allows you to get a very, well, natural looking drilling through dirt look. See, as I go sideways like this, it leaves a nice little trail based on which brick I'm currently digging. Graphically, the current effects are doing well. However, I still have yet to put in the system for using the stuff that you're mining to purchase anything. And I've yet to put in the system whereby a gun is attached to this section of the helicopter that fires at people. Development's going along pretty steadily, in other words. For roughly 1 week's worth of work, it's not that bad. I've generated quite a few scripts for this. Brick Crumble, of course, is the script for the bricks that I'm using. Has a health and ID saying which type of mineral am I. My ID -1, of course, is dirt. And then the puff particles, or the particle effect that each brick has, that it moves to match where you're digging and turns off when you stop digging. Got death particles, which you create on, well, death. Whether or not we're currently dying, it's very important because sometimes you could call your death function multiple times in the same frame. For instance, if on trigger stay 2 drills hit the same thing, then death would be called twice. However, with the dead boolean there, I can say if not dead, go to death. And inside this, it's okay, because after all I said dead to true, like this, moved it for your entertainment, set dead to true, which means it wouldn't get called multiple times. And when dying, you tell the parent, which is, in this case, the parent of the collider of the drill, which is the helicopter, that they've got a package with the ID this, basically saying you now have the minerals of this type. If the minerals is of the type dirt, it won't get stored inside the inventory, which is handled inside the helidigger script. And of course, when the player leaves, the particles stop emitting. On death, they stop emitting. Tell them to turn themselves off and destroy themselves. Turn the parent off so the particles don't just go poof when it disappears. And then create the death particles. For this, I'm using the input manager that I cover in my input manager tutorial. It essentially takes care of everything for me already. I just had to plug it in, set my keys over here in the camera manager. Set my keys, give them a name, move digger, drill toggle, world map, etc., and give the key code for them. In this case, I want my world map to be M. And then inside the game, I can change the key codes as necessary using the Input Manager script, and it looks a lot better than just using the one that pops up upon game creation. The Heli Digger is the most complicated script so far. Spent a lot of time on this one. It has a lot of different variables to make sure that its movement looks right. The move speed is the max. The current move speed is what you're currently moving at. The acceleration speed, how fast you can switch from one side to the other. The rotate speed is for the drill, how fast the drill turns. Well, actually how fast the helicopter blades turn, my mistake. Current rotation is how fast it currently is rotating, which increases and decreases based on input. The base rotate is you cannot ever rotate slower than this. Max HP, kind of self-explanatory. The maximum amount of health you have. Current HP, your current health. Right now nothing actually damages the digger, but in the future, if you hit something going too fast, you'll get hurt. When an enemy shoots you, you'll be hurt. When a bat collides with the side of your ship, you'll be hurt. And, well, it'll just be generally hazardous down below. Start landing spot, that's essentially position for the landing gear, but when it's up, and the end landing spot when the landing gear is down, well, you need that to keep track so you can move it up and down properly. Current landing speed, that's essentially how fast you can go before the landing gear starts rising and won't come down again. And of course it never comes down when you're in mining mode because that would get in the way of the drill. The cargo, the storage of mineral integers for the current ship. When you go beyond the end of the cargo, it throws an error. Right now I don't have the error message, it's actually appearing on screen, but it works. Basically, whenever you mine something you don't have room for, it goes, sorry, can't put that inside your cargo bay, it's lost forever, and it's just a signal, time to return to base and drop off my stuff. This is the holder for the joint that controls the blades, the helicopter rotators. All these things are the same mesh, so this is, a joint, a bone that you can put in a 3D application. Since it's all rendered as one mesh, it goes pretty fast. Same with landing gear. The guns, I've created the models for. However, I haven't yet completed the scripts for putting them in game. They'll be essentially controlled with a mouse when I do. Current gun, the current one on the ship. You essentially say cur gun, destroy, take gun from gun vector whenever you switch them around. Pretty straightforward. Same with add-ons. Things like radar dishes, sensor bubbles, a shield system, all these are actually attached to the ship. Well, will be in the final version. And they can be turned on and off based on whether you purchase them or have them enabled. The drill, it kind of comes out from the side or the bottom of the ship and drills things. It's a separate object from the rest of it because that way I had a little bit more control over how I can move it. Made it a lot easier. And of course, are we mining right now so that the landing gear can know whether or not it can lower. And the link to the input manager, very important. What this is doing is setting it so that wherever I have the landing gear, whenever the game starts, is where the landing gear's top position is, and then the bottom position is that minus 0.2, making sure that if I have to reposition it, I don't have to change any variables in the code. Always important to make sure your code does that for you. Lots of stuff in update. If you're going to run something once a frame, you might as well have it handle a lot of information. Basically checking the keys for movements. If you're mining, checking the keys for switching the drill positions. Once again, more movement. Making sure that you don't go faster than the maximum speed. It doesn't actually snap you back to the maximum speed when you go over. It just slows you down by 0.95, which will kind of give you a smooth slow as opposed to a quick slow.